Good afternoon. It's really good to be back at Technoport for the third time. It's always good to be back in Norway's capital. Yeah, I know there's that Oslo place as well, but I'm a techie, so this is Norway's capital for me. Now, before I get started, I would just like a show of hands to see who has ever invested in a crowd-funded project. Oh, that's not a bad show of hands. Okay, and of those of you who have, who invested in a product type thing? Whether that's a watch or a beer cooler or whatever, you give them your money and hopefully you get a product. Quite a few. And who of you have backed something a bit less tangible, like maybe a film project, an arts project, some scientific research? A few. And has anyone invested in a 6 billion Norwegian crown space project lately? Then we can talk later. Okay. So first, let me tell you a little bit about Lunar Mission One, so that you get an idea of what it was we were trying to do, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about how we went about doing that. So Lunar Mission One is, we think, the most inspirational, inclusive, and collaborative space project ever. And we hope to find out the secrets of how the moon was born, more about the birth of the Earth, and the solar system. Because we like to think we know how the moon was born. We think, maybe, that about 4.5 billion years ago, a large object in space about the size of Mars collided with a very young Earth, knocked a chunk off it. That debris formed into the moon, started orbiting the Earth, and there you go, you got a moon. But no one's really proven that yet. And there are other theories out there that have not been disproven. So wouldn't it be good to know for sure? So what we're going to do is we are going to send a space mission to the moon. It's a non-profit mission, and we're going to analyze the moon's geology. We're not going to do the rocket launch bit. There are so many people who do good rocket launches these days. We're going to buy space on a rocket launch. We're concentrating on this lander. We're going to the south pole of the moon. It's unexplored. We've not discovered what's there. There could be water ice. There certainly is a lot of sunlight, and we need that sunlight because we are going to drill down into the moon. So far, they've only drilled down into the moon about as far as I am tall. It's all irradiated. The rocks on the surface might not even be from the moon. They might be meteorites. So we're going to go deep to where the pristine stuff is. We're going to a minimum of 20 meters. And when we get to 20 meters, the going is good, we can keep drilling and keep drilling and keep drilling to a maximum of 100 meters. And when we look at those 4.5 billion-year-old rocks, we're going to know how the moon was formed, and that will tell us more about the Earth, more about the solar system, more about the place in which we live. Interestingly, once we've drilled a big hole, well, it's not a big hole, it's only about 5 centimeters across, but it's very, very deep. We're going to put something back. We're going to put an archive back, in fact, 2 archives. One official archive of life on Earth, a species database, cultural data, that kind of thing, and a collection of millions and millions of private digital time capsules. More about that later. So that's what we're going to do. But why did we decide to crowdfund this mission? Well, back in 2007, when Lunar Mission One was born, crowdfunding wasn't an option. Indiegogo founded in 2008, and that was originally for sort of smallish film projects. Kickstarter started off in 2009, again originally for more arts-based projects. And it wasn't even available for UK-based projects till 2012. So, don't let them tell you, though, that crowdfunding is anything new. Because in the UK, the Great Exhibition of 1851, yes, 1851, was in fact a crowd-funded project. We decided it would be great in the UK to have a big exhibition celebrating all that was good about the UK, the science, the technology, the culture, the arts, and it was going to run for nearly a year. we built a massive crystal palace in London to house the exhibition, and people came from all over the world to see it. That was not government funded. Now, crowdfunding back then was a little bit more difficult because we didn't have the internet. So it was all done by local committees raising money from people who lived in the UK, in London, and a little bit from abroad as well, by taking donations. And they managed to raise a total of £232,000, which is about 2.8 million Norwegian crowns. And if you scale that up to today's values, that means they raised 340 billion Norwegian crowns to hold that exhibition. Now, is that crowdfunding on a big scale, or is that crowdfunding on a big scale? Now, Lunar Mission One was always supposed to have funding by individuals via an auction, e-commerce, donations, and that is all still going to be happening. But we needed a seed fund of a few £100,000 to get us going, to get the teams launched, to get the website built, and things like that. And all the pots of money we were invited to apply for were somehow linked to the government. They always are. And of course, the government's had a tough time lately, and budgets have been squeezed tighter and tighter. And that money didn't come to us as easily as we might have thought it would. 1 minute, I might be getting a call, and we'd rush down to number 10 Downing Street, which is the Prime Minister's residence, and I'd think, this is it. We are going to get the money. And then the money wouldn't get allocated, or it would get diverted for something that had cropped up. And in 2014, we got the support of the UK Science Minister, David Willetts, and at that point, everyone who was supporting us on the project was convinced that our funding was going to come through. But times were tight, and the funding didn't come through. And finally, we got to the point where Lunar Mission One was ready to go. We needed to move the project forward. And in fact, if we didn't move the project forward, we were really scared that it would stagnate, and that all those organizations that were encouraging us and supporting us, I'm talking about people like Rutherford Appleton Laboratories, the Open University, who did such a brilliant job on the ESA Rosetta project, University College London, who have got a big space department. We didn't want them to give up on us. The space agencies knew we were all revved up and ready to go. So some radical action was needed, and we needed to change to a more entrepreneurial state of mind. And I will never forget the day when we had our meeting, and the end of the meeting came, and we just said, you know what? We're just going to do this anyway, because we can. And we discussed alternative forms of funding, including crowdfunding. I'd already backed a couple of crowdfunded projects, and the others hadn't. And we kind of looked at it and said, yes, you can sell watches, you can sell beer coolers, you can make films, but can you launch a big, serious science space project on Kickstarter? I don't know if anyone's seen the Arcid Space Telescope project. That's the biggest project I had seen at that time based on space. They asked for $1 million. They got $1.5 million to build their space telescope, and an awful lot of people bought an awful lot of space selfies to make it happen. And we thought, you know what, maybe it could be our time. So on the 19th of November 2014, we launched our Kickstarter campaign. We asked for the minimum amount of funding that we could cope with, because Kickstarter is an all-or-nothing kind of a thing. If you don't get your minimum, you get nothing. So we asked for £600,000, which is about 7.4 million Norwegian crowns. And the rewards we offered, because on Kickstarter, if someone's going to give you something, you've got to give them something back, right? So we were offering our time capsules, your own personal digital space, to be buried deep in the moon to last for up for 1 billion years. That was quite popular. You can deposit a strand of hair. That's the only physical objects we're taking to the moon, your DNA in the form of a strand of hair, should you wish to. We're also offering seats at the launch so people could watch their time capsule go up to the moon. Things like exclusive project access, participation in discussions, just involvement with the project and helping us to work through that project. And some merchandise, because everyone likes a t-shirt, right? So what happened? Well, first thing that happened on the 19th of November was the media went crazy. We handled 800 media items and articles in the first day. We were on the BBC all day. We were on CNN, Fox, NBC in the States. We were in everything from the New York Times to TN8 in Nicaragua. It was a heck of a day. Professor Stephen Hawking did us a beautiful piece on his Facebook page, which has about 2 million followers, I believe, that said that Lunar Mission One has the potential to rekindle our wonder. Sir Paul McCartney booked himself a time capsule. And Brian Cox said this.
Is that everyone can play a part directly in the funding, that they can know that they've given this money and that money is going to go into the technology which is going to land on the moon, it's going to do the science. You can also put your memories as an archive of your life in Lunar Mission One if you want, and it'll land on the moon and it'll sit there for 1 billion years, which is a nice thing to think about. But I think the key thing for me is that everybody can say, I think we should explore space. I want to increase the sum total of human knowledge. I want to know how the solar system formed. It's important, and so I am going to do something about it. I'm going to pay for it. And that's...
So for those of you who aren't familiar with Brian Cox, he is to physics in the UK as Trond-Viggo Torgersen is to medicine in Norway. So that was a big boost for us. We had people telling us their lunar stories of how they came across our project, and we've published many moving stories from people on our website. And we had these guys who very curiously appear to have the Technoport logo behind them. Underground Zero are a bunch of space rockers, and they decided there was no better place for their 30-year back catalogue of rock than to bury it deep in space rock. So they're using their time capsule as a music archive. Many people declared that they were going to put their family tree in their archive, their photography projects, their top secret chocolate cake recipe. Our youngest follower turned out to be 9 months old, and our eldest had the time capsule bought for her 93rd birthday, and she's going to be sending a strand of her hair to the moon. We got 36% of our funding in the first day. But, of course, first days on Kickstarter aren't typical, and this is how it went. So if you look over here, £213,000 in one day. Slightly depressing day over here, £2,733. But we made our target. In fact, we made more than our target. We got £672,000. So that's about 8.2 million Norwegian crowns. So we achieved our cash objective. But we did have to change the way we launched the project because we launched on Kickstarter. So what happened to the shape of the project? We put on our entrepreneurial state of mind, but to do that, we had to slightly change how the project was going to go. We had to get ready for Kickstarter. We had to run a Kickstarter campaign. That's different to taking a pot of money from a government loan and using that to set up the project. Do you know what happened? It was amazing. We could not believe how we had so far got our objectives early. Because Lunar Mission One, we said we wanted it to be interactive. We wanted it to be globally collaborative. We already had a massive public engagement campaign and a massive public education campaign planned. And we kind of got to deploy that early, which is even better. Can you imagine how many people would have wanted to interact with us if we'd just been a funded project? The draw wouldn't have been there. As it was, in 1 month, we got 7,300 people on board in 60 different countries. Yes, the Norwegian flag is there, and thank you very much indeed. So, had it been a government-funded project, I really don't think we would have got that massive involvement from day one. And in 1 month, we've got this amazing bunch of people on board. Now, our Luminauts, as they've decided to call themselves, our supporters, have been absolutely amazing. They have Facebooked, they have created amazing works of art, music, jewelry, poetry. They want to know how they can raise funds for us. One guy has even set up an entire art gallery dedicated to Lunar Mission One with the accompanying music that you might be able to hear as well. We're currently setting up a forum to harness this talented community we now have. And we know that when we plan our education program, we have parents out there, we have teachers we can call on, we have educational professionals, we have science experts, we have physicists, we have space experts, and yes, we've got all the professional partners on board too, but in our community, it's great to be able to bounce those ideas around, and they're going to help us to shape the future of the project. So, our lessons learned from crowdfunding. Yes, you need to do your good PR. We were blessed with an amazing PR company called Pagefield, who are based in London and were willing to work with us even though we had no money. How amazing is that? Because they were enthusiasts of the project. They were, if you like, our first supporters. But the PR can only get people to see your project. And if they're going to invest in your project, give you money, you have to offer them something back. So if you're thinking of doing a Kickstarter or a crowdfunding of any kind, one of the things you have to ask yourself really early on is, what can I give back? Can I give stuff? Can I give interaction? Can I give exclusive access to something? What can I offer my audience? However good you think your social media is, it's not going to be good enough. We spent months building up our social media followings, and we still didn't get quite as global a reach as we hoped to, even though we achieved our target and everything. I don't know how many of you in the room here today heard about this project way back in November, but I'm pretty willing to bet it wouldn't be all of you. We did not reach the whole world despite the thousands of pieces of media coverage. Do not underestimate your community. Now, in the worst cases on projects I have backed that have gone wrong, they don't like it when you go quiet. So it's no good doing crowdfunding if you're a shy person. You've got to be talking to your community the whole time. Our community has really loved interacting with us. And actually, on the upside, when you do a crowdfunder and it's a bit of a roller coaster ride, on a day when you're feeling a bit down, what better than to go and interact with 7,300 enthusiastic people who love your project? Have faith in your project, but never blind faith. We had 2 lots of research done to evaluate our project. We knew that the mission was good. We'd already had that professionally set up with some really sterling partners. But we didn't know if the public were just ready to back such a big space mission yet. So we were glad we had our research done. So, is crowdfunding for you? If you're happy to chat, a lot, and there's a lot of PR to do. And if you have or can get hold of great social media skills, and you have stuff that they want, and your project can thrive on a community, not just cope with a community, but embrace that community and the community's ideas and what the community wants you and your project to do, and you're like a roller coaster ride, then it sounds like crowdfunding could be for you. So what's next for us? Well, for us, we're now delivering these rewards, our T-shirts, and we've got some exciting workshops lined up and meet the experts and that kind of thing. We're setting our teams to work on the mission. They are literally on a mission now, and we've got the funding to get that mission underway. So the mission is going to start taking shape, and we can report on that. And we're putting our community to work to help us solve our problems when we need their input. They want to. And we can look ahead to blast off knowing that when this thing goes up in 2024, not only are we going to possibly answer the question about where the moon came from, how the Earth formed, and other questions about our solar system, but we will be watching that launch with thousands, possibly by then millions of people all around who made that happen. Now, I never thought I would hear myself say, I'm so glad we didn't get that funding. And of course, we always welcome funding at any time from many quarters. But you know what? I am glad that we didn't get that first lot of funding from the government, because if we'd missed out on that, we could have missed out on an awesome community and an awesome experience. And we would have started this project, I think, quite late in terms of our global collaboration. And we have amazing collaborative things cooked up for you. So thank you very much. And I think we've got some questions next, have we?